And it was at that moment, as her toes touched the laptop screen, that she knew she was ready to become a yoga teacher.
Give me a break. You're probably wondering if you're good enough at yoga to take a yoga teacher training. Maybe you think you need to be able to do that. So in this video, I'm going to answer that question and give you 5 concepts to consider to help you decide if you are suitable to take a 200-hour yoga teacher training. Firstly, let's just abolish this phrase, good at yoga. There's literally no such thing. You can be strong, you can be flexible, you can be skilled in holding a handstand or something, but none of those things make you good at yoga. Yoga is a practice of mindful movement and of self-discovery, and being a little bit stiff or a little bit wobbly and pretty hopeless at handstands have literally nothing to do with that at all. And more importantly, being strong or being bendy or being skillful do not make someone a good teacher. And therefore they are somewhat irrelevant in deciding if you're ready to do a teacher training or not. So what should you consider? Number 1, this might sound obvious, but why do you want to do the training? Is it because you want to be a yoga teacher, or is it because you want to advance or deepen your own practice? In my personal opinion, there are far, far better ways to learn more about yoga, to deepen your practice, than taking a 200-hour training. These trainings are kind of expensive. They are extremely time consuming and include a lot of content geared towards teaching you how to teach. Sequencing lectures, how to manually adjust, how to articulate your cues, how to market yourself as a teacher, all of which are pretty pointless if you have zero intention of ever teaching. Instead, I think you'd be far better searching out workshops on the topics that you want to learn more about, whether it's anatomy or alignment or philosophy or breathwork. There are workshops for all of that at a much more affordable price point. Number 2, finances. So if teaching yoga is your intention, make sure that you've considered what it actually means to be a yoga teacher, which, for your information, does not mean you just do yoga all day, every day. I wish. Have you considered your personal financial situation and how many classes you think that you might need to teach to make it a financially viable career? Check out what local teachers are charging for their group classes, what they're charging for their one-to-ones. Investigate what the pay is like at local studios or a cost of hiring a local space. Make sure that you're well informed. Many people choose to teach part-time when they first qualify for this reason, as being a yoga teacher isn't really well renowned for being a particularly lucrative paid job. Number 3, schedule. Most people want to do yoga either before or after work or at the weekend. And therefore the schedule of a yoga teacher is sometimes quite antisocial. Your peak times for needing to work tend to be the times when everybody else is off. Consider if this works for your schedule, if you have childcare to consider, or maybe a lifestyle that you just don't really want to compromise on. Number 4, self-employment. Remember, as a yoga teacher, you are going to be a small business owner. You have more roles in your business than simply standing at the front of a class and giving cues for yoga postures. You are an accountant, you're a web developer, you are a marketing manager, you are an admin assistant. If making a living from teaching yoga is your aim, don't be fooled into thinking that the hours between teaching your classes are downtime or time for gloriously long self-practices. You'll have to have many tools to your belt, which you either learn as you go or maybe even pay someone to do for you. But do you like the sound of that kind of job? And then number 5, physical ability. This is the bit that everyone thinks is the most important part, but really it's probably the least important. In my opinion, to get the most from a yoga teacher training without completely drowning in information overload, you need to have a good understanding of foundational yoga postures. You need to know what is a warrior 2 and where your feet should be, to know the difference between chair pose and pigeon pose. You don't need to be an expert in their alignment, but you should have a pretty good idea. Most trainings ask for a minimum of 2 years practice before allowing you to book onto the course, which is simply a way to try and make sure that everyone has practiced long enough to accumulate their yoga knowledge. The training is physically demanding as you're doing a long physical practice each day, as well as many of the modules on sequencing and alignment requiring you to get up and move around. But you know, they're not a boot camp. You're allowed to rest, you're encouraged to modify, because the purpose of doing the course is to learn to teach, not to develop your strength and to develop your flexibility, although you are very likely to do so in the process. Depending on if your training is an intensive, as in you do it in, let's say, a month altogether, or if it's broken down into smaller segments, such as every weekend for 6 months, will also determine how physically demanding the course feels to your body as well as the intensity of practice that you're already used to. But remember, being able to do a handstand does not make you a good teacher. Being able to do the splits does not mean that you'll be good at teaching somebody else to do the splits. So how advanced your practice is really shouldn't be a deciding factor in the process. If you've got to this point and you're still like, hell yeah, I want to be a yoga teacher, then go check out this video on all the things that I wish I'd known before I took my 200 hour.